Welcome to the Esports Business Network Podcast. I'm your host, Trent Knox. I'm the founder and CEO of Esports Business Network. This is episode number 25 of the EBNP. Our guest is Gui Arent-Meyer, co-founder and CMO at Draftbuff. Gui's experience and history in esports is both robust and tenured, with over 5 years of experience in different areas of esports, including content creation, marketing, man management, and project management. In this episode, Gui and Trent discuss the journey that got him to Draftbuff, why Draftbuff is developing an app for esports enthusiasts, and what he foresees for the future of esports. Enjoy.
This is the future. Evolution. This is the future.
Welcome to the show, Gui.
Yes, pleasure to be here, Trent. Very hyped to be here. Glad to talk a little bit about me and Draftbuff today.
Awesome. Gui, you're all the way out in Korea, and before we started, we were talking about internet and goofing around a bit about my speeds and talking about how Korea is so forward and advanced. When did you decide to move out there?
I moved to Korea in almost 2 years ago in April 2019. So back then, it was two personal reasons, to be with my girlfriend, who became last year my wife. That's why I made the decision. I used to work anyways remotely for the past years. So I think it was a decision that was very straightforward to me back in the day. But no, right now living in Korea, getting used and adapt to the country, couldn't be better. And living pretty much at the center of the global esports,
Absolutely.
I think it's something fascinating. And for any gaming, your esports enthusiast is really a once in a lifetime opportunity.
Yeah, going over a little bit about your LinkedIn and searching around the internet to getting to know you a bit virtually, a bit more. You've been doing esports and esports adjacent things for a long time. You have a long credentials and history in the space. But what first got you into gaming when you were growing up? Was it your parents, the kids you grew up with, brothers, sisters? What was your experience getting into gaming?
Yeah, so first of all, I grew up in Brazil, so that's where I lived until I was 17, and then I moved to Germany because I have German Brazilian citizenship. So my father is German Brazilian, my mother is Brazilian, so a very big, beautiful cultural mix there. But yeah, it was mostly because of my father. I remember growing up with him playing Civilization 2. The old version you play Hot Seat, or one computer for multiple players, and then we play both of us against AI. I have very fond memories of playing Civ with him. Still I try to keep in touch and play Civ 6 these days with my father, whenever we have some time. And FIFA, a big football / soccer fan. So I used to play a lot of FIFA when I was growing up, and that's literally when I was 5 to 6 years old. So I always has been mostly a PC gamer. Honestly, barely had any consoles in my life. I don't know. I just got used to play PC games since I was very, very little, and it kind of evolved from there. And back then in Brazil, there wasn't really games in Portuguese, translated everything. So mostly my father used to get me new games, and everything was in English. And I sort of was kind of forced to to try to translate and see what was the game about, everything in English. And that actually helped me, learning English from a very young age. And 15 years later, it helped me very much in my professional career. So I always tell kids when they ask me now, wow, you're English now, for a foreigner, you speak English very well, and they ask me, yeah, play games, kid, play games, and then you're gonna be good as well, I think the impact that gaming has for one's development is really underrated, and I think people forget that you can learn languages, you can talk to people, interaction. So that helped me a lot during my early years, my formation. So yeah, I think got a little longer of your question, but yeah, my father was a huge figure to me to help like becoming a huge like game enthusiast, and that of course evolved over the years, and then I became like a big World of Warcraft player in the 2000s. I still am, to be honest, and like that evolved like to League of Legends, which is still like my main game, let's say. But yeah, pretty much like a short overview of everything.
So English is your third language?
Yes, English is actually my third language. My first language is Portuguese, and second one is German, and then English, and then I speak Spanish in a near fluent level as well. And my fifth one then will be Korean, that I'm considering living in Korea. Yeah.
So are you considered a polyglot?
Well, technically,
Or is that 6 or more languages?
yeah, technically definition of the word, technically yes.
Yeah.
But I assume that I learned the language through like my life experiences. Like born in Brazil, living in Germany for 10 years, living in Korea for 2 years. English, always been my main working language. So I think like I consider most of that I learned those languages through my life circumstances. Although I enjoy learning, I try talking different languages a lot. Whenever I have the opportunity, I try like to talk it better. Even my Korean, of course, is nowhere like fluent yet. But like I try not to talk. I try to be fluent, and that actually is very helpful for like of course for esports career. Where there's so much
Absolutely.
going on in Korea. So, but yeah.
No, yeah, I've always found it really interesting, uh, the diversity and the cultures that come into esports, and there are quite a few polyglots in the space, and it's so useful in the business of esports, being able to make these sort of negotiations internationally, and just being someone who's an international person. It helps so much in doing business locally, whether you're in Asia, Europe, or the United States, wherever you are. Obviously, there's different regional differences and colloquialisms and accents that go to each and every place's version of a language. But it's really cool that you're putting that work in. But speaking of esports, when did you get into? When was your first introduction to esports, the community?
That was pretty much with League of Legends back in 2013. So I used to be like until then a big MMO player.
Mhm.
I didn't, like pretty much like I heard much about esports back then. I knew it was a thing already, like in Counter Strike, in StarCraft, but I still, didn't have like the true contact to it. So, but then like 2013, I decided, like I watched this tournament called the League of Legends World Championship. I didn't understand much about what's going on, but then like I saw like like literally thousands of people watching the final, like between SKT and Royal, and Royal, in Los Angeles. Like I was like, holy crap! Like this, is huge. This is getting huge. And the same day I downloaded the game, literally I started playing League of Legends. And 7 years later, well, I kind of can say it changed my life a little bit, considering I have been working in esports for the last 5 years. Um, but yeah, no, that day, like watching the finals, like when I saw like SKT winning their first World Championship in the Staples Arena, like, seeing literally like was 15,000 fans cheering, for them, for the players, and, screaming for the match. I saw, wow, like this is like, had the potential to become like just like football, just like soccer. Like I grew up in Brazil, like, not only playing games with my father, but also going to soccer stadium to cheer for our local team. And like I often went to the stadium, like 30,000 people, like screaming and cheering for the team. Like Brazilians are super passionate about soccer, like super passionate, which it can be good or bad sometimes. It depends on the occasion. But either way, like the passion, like that's something when I was watching the finals back in 2013, is something I could like remember from soccer. Like I could like see the parallels there. So I was like, wow, this thing is gonna get big. So again, like same day, download League of Legends, start playing, and kind of never stop until today. 7 years later, still playing. Of course, a little less because work and stuff, like responsibilities catch you eventually. But like that was the day I think where my life kind of changed. Yeah, it led to everything that happened in my life so far. So even like being in Korea, I'm here in Korea because of esports, because esports gave me a opportunity to work remotely. So yeah, but that day, never gonna forget.
Yeah, that's a great first introduction to esports at the World Finals for League of Legends. So after that, you've obviously gotten different opportunities in the space, but what was the first gig or job that you got in esports?
Yeah, so that's like I started to follow esports. Then I watched the finals as I said, 2013 and 2014. I watched a lot of league esports, like literally a lot. LCS, like ULCS and ALCS, words, everything. I tried to watch everything, learn more about the game, be the expert about the game. And then I started thinking, okay, I want to work in this industry. Like this looks so cool. This looks amazing. But how do I start? I didn't have any connections. I didn't have any experience in esports. And I saw hundreds, thousands of people trying to do the same as I did, trying to make esports in their profession, try to find a gig in the industry. So I just decided to start my own thing. In the end of 2015, I noticed there was kind of a gap in the area of content creation, in the meaning that there were a lot of people interested in creating content, writing articles, but there was no platform to release them. So I just got a platform out there, created something in a couple of weeks, my spare time, called splitpush.net. Was mainly a League of Legends portal. I created a portal, add some stats, team, player stats, a very simple looking, but I call it back at the time, 5 years ago, it was, pretty good. And I started writing some content myself. Back then I spent around 2 years watching a lot of low esports. So I felt myself comfortable writing about it. And then I started publishing articles on Reddit, on other social media, and slowly I started asking, if there's anyone has interested to write in content as well, I offer my platform. And people started answering, people started answering and started releasing, writing articles in Split Push. And things start growing from there, very fast actually. And I think I released the platform in January 2016. And by April, we had 5 different writers. By July, we had 30 different writers writing content on Split Push. And I put I create a system of revenue share, based on how many views your articles get. People get revenue based on what you have. Wasn't that much, to be honest. Esports media was and still is a very complicated area. I know that very well. But people had fun, people enjoyed, people appreciated. And I think in August 2016, we had over 500,000 page views monthly already. So it was very methodic, very fast. And I was approached by Gamer CEO, Riyad Shikrani. Mm-hmm. So very great guy, he's still of course around here, as the leader of Esports these days. And he made me an offer to acquire Split Push, which was for me wow, I'm starting to make money in esports, that changed the game completely. My parents until then, they were not exactly supportive. No, they always support me whatever I did, but they were worried that I'm not making the most of my time in esports because I wasn't making that much money. But that day that I got the offer, and I told my parents, and that I think was the day they also thought, wow, literally people can make a career in video games these days. You open the world. These days, they love esports. They understand even a little about the game, which is very fun to see. But yeah, I accept the offer and I start working under the gamers umbrella for some time. And yeah, that was pretty much what kickstarted my esports career. Then I got the connections. I got more experience in the industry, which of course helped me immensely. Even after I left gamers in 2017, kind of helped me getting all future gigs that I that I got in the industry, and work up in a bunch of different stuff over the last 4 years, on State.gg, stats website, which was acquired by Mobalytics, acquired on working on Event Global as well, writing content, doing some content as well, content management, SEO based, and end up landing on Draftbuff, which is my biggest project surely so far, has been amazing the last like almost like 1 year already. But yeah, glad to tell a little bit about that soon as well.
Absolutely. Tell us about Draftbuff. I'm, there's the marketing and advertising out there. It's a fantasy platform, but tell us like what's the motivating driving factor behind Draftbuff? Why was it designed? Why is it what is it looking to accomplish?
So Draftbuff, as I said, like a fantasy esports platform. But differently than other fantasy esports platforms, just like DraftKings, FanDuel, where they aim at gambling, the betting side of things, where you can actually make money. We offer a purely social experience on Draftbuff. That means you get the app, you can play on the website now. You create a fantasy league, everything for free. Invite your friends, and purely have fun together. Have fun, drafting the players. I literally joined a dozen of more than a dozen of drafts for this season, and I'm meeting new people, having fun. So that's what we want to bring with Draftbuff. We want to make fantasy esports fun and a social experience to all esports fans. And I think we are aiming to do that. We got a lot of traction games such as League of Legends, Call of Duty, and Overwatch, which are our big three. We also have Rainbow Six and Counter and CS:GO. But we want to make the fantasy experience fun. I mean, over a fun social game for esports fans, is our first and foremost priority for everything we're gonna be doing around Draftbuff. So we create a fantasy platform, offer a different types of fantasy games, ranging from the draft leagues. I know everyone in America loves to play fantasy football. That's you guys are crazy for that, and we want to try to bring exactly the same experience, but for fantasy esports, for League of Legends, for Call of Duty, for Overwatch. For these games, I think there's millions of esports fans out there that they need fantasy, but they don't know yet. That's the thing. I think America, for instance, in America, people love, millions and millions play fantasy football, with colleagues, with friends, with family. And we want to do exactly the same for esports. And that's why we're getting our word out there, me as the CMO of the company, one of the 4 co-founders and the CMO of the company. I'm doing exactly that, trying to get our word out there, working with different influencers, doing different marketing campaigns to get to bring, to let people know that, hey, we exist, we offer a very cool social experience, go check it out. And very, I'm impressed to see our growth throughout, last year. The platform was released in November 2019, so a little over 1 year ago. And since then, we had over 100,000 downloads already. So it's pretty awesome to see the community support for Draftbuff. Something, one of my biggest let's say pastimes is going on Twitter, going on Reddit, and checking to see what people are talking about Draftbuff, people interested about Draftbuff, because that's where I know we are doing something success. We are doing something that is having a positive effect in people's life. When people start tweeting about Draftbuff, guys, someone wanna play Draftbuff with me, in this season, something like that. I can see Draftbuff helping, doing exactly what it's supposed to do, being a very interactive social experience to esports fans, and people not only having other ways to interact with their existing friends, but as a tool to find new friends, to make to find new people who have a very interesting hobby in common, which is being an esports fan. Either be League of Legends or COD or or Overwatch, as I mentioned. You can find people with common interests, and I think we're achieving so with Draftbuff. So yeah, last year was a year where we kind of introduced Draftbuff to the world. We released our first titles. This year is, I think, with the year where Draftbuff will be coming global. Again, and that's that's my multiple language knowledge is gonna kind of come handy as we expand into the global market. So I actually already talked with Brazilian partners, with Korean partners, and being able to speak the languages surely come very handy. So, but yeah, this is the year I think Draftbuff's gonna go global, expand it into even more esports titles, to try bring this social fantasy experience out there.
Absolutely. And as you were kind of introducing the myself and the audience to Draftbuff, I was thinking you mentioned traditional, or I mean American football, not to be confused with traditional football or soccer. And one of the things about American football is it's highly embedded into it's usually highly embedded into American pop culture. Um, outside of course, 2020 and COVID-19 and everything that it has been going on. I think one of the things I was thinking, and I want to ask your opinion on this, is with a draft fantasy application, I feel not only is it beneficial to uh, the social audience, the consumers of esports, but it's highly beneficial to esports players in promoting themselves and bringing attention to who some of the celebrities are or top performing players are. What kind of benefit is Draft Buff bringing to the players?
Exactly as you said, like people are more aware. People start like, to following more certain players and teams based on their draft. So for instance, like if I draft a player from a team that I don't know very much, and that player, I just draft because it was like my last lot, like it's like just a snake format, just like American football. And I just draft this player. I don't know much, but it was the only one available. Let's see how this player's gonna do. And then you start watching the game, of this player, like this team playing, just to see like how this player is gonna perform. And the player does well, kicks and everything, like gets you like 50 points, which is a lot in draft off, and you win your fantasy league because of your player. You start following the player more, obviously. You become a fan of the player. I I think I had an experience the summer last year. Like I played with some friends, and they draft like one of my friends draft a player called Zazel, a support in the LCS. Like
Mhm.
he played last year for Evil Genius in the LCS, and he didn't know nothing about Zazel. Like he thought like the name Zazel. I like this name. Sounds very good name. And let's see how Zazel is gonna do. And Zayd actually did very well. And my friend like was over the moon. He started he literally started following Zayd on Twitter, on social media because of his like good performances. So I think when you're talking about like how this affects players, I was thinking about my friends who became a Zaydel's fan because of his good friends and performances. So
Mhm.
and then that's something very cool to see like you because we have pretty much every single LCS, LSC, player like the Call of Duty League, every single player who are playing these leagues are,
Mhm.
Draftbuff.
Mhm.
So you get to know like especially if you're like a sort of casual fan, like only the big names, like only Perks or Caps or like
Mhm.
Formal, the
Mhm.
big names in the esports scene. You don't know like kind of the upcoming ones. So having them on draft are actually very helpful, for these players. Especially, of course, they need to perform though. Like that's up to them. They need to perform well, like to give the player enough fantasy points. But I think it gives us, we can showcase new players, new teams, and that's something very cool. And obviously, not only that, but it helps a lot as well with having the fantasy players watching more esports because they are more engaged on it because they're playing on a fantasy league. You know, uh, Most esports fans either they follow only one title or they follow like certain teams or players. But having them like playing fantasy on Draftbuff, that means they're gonna have like a team of varied players, varied from varied rosters. That means they're gonna be more engaged to watch more than one team, more than one player, because they want to see how your fantasy players are doing in real time. So they end up watching more esports, per default. Like I think we have some metrics. I think that I did like a short research survey with our
Mhm.
fantasy players last year, and I think like 80% of them say that they considerably watching more esports because Draftbuff, because they are playing fantasy. And yeah, I think that's something like very interesting to notice. So, and obviously, like the big publishers are also noticing that. So that's why like we are also in talks with the big names in the industry to how we can work together like with Draftbuff and their leagues, because they have been noticed that like playing on Draftbuff, yeah, like the people playing on Draftbuff, they are surely watching a lot, they're consuming a lot of content, and obviously for every publisher having better metrics showing retention, showing more viewership minutes, like views per minute, I think it's called the metric, is super damn important for them. So that's why, like, since late last year, we have been talking with some of these big players in the industry, and hopefully this year we can start working on an official basis with some of them.
Absolutely. And you mentioned another thing. You mentioned that you are the CMO. You are, a quintessential in the marketing advertising for Draftbuff. You're coming on a show like this, Esports Business Network, where I'm a content creator and I also work in journalism a little bit, and we're able to kind of platform and bring more attention to Draftbuff. What about working with influencers and working with the players? Have you, what sort of integrations are you offering for players or maybe streamers to integrate Draftbuff into their content creation?
Yeah, excellent question as well, because we are working with a lot of influencers these days to promote Draftbuff. We try to have a very organic approach to help, like, we're promoting like Draftbuff to influencers communities. So like you often see like some advertisements, some ads, doing in a very like addy way, as I call it, like just like posting a tweet about like some new product or something like that. But it looks and reads like an advertisement. And honestly, that doesn't work out in the esports ecosystem nowadays. I think esports fans are very savvy. They are smart enough to identify that the sellout and like nature of a product or of a platform. So for Draftbuff, luckily we have a very social, very interactive platform in our hands, and I try to choose the most of it when advertising Draftbuff, when you're working with influencers to promote Draftbuff. So the best way to do something like promote Draftbuff is just we have the influencer, the YouTuber, the content creator, the player having a fantasy league for themselves, like create a fantasy league, and they just like tweet it out or mention on stream, guys, like I'm playing a fantasy league on Draftbuff, that's how it works a little bit. I have like 6 spots on my league, like anyone interested to play with me. And then like suddenly we have like 300 comments, 400 comments, 500 comments, people like writing, me, I want to play fantasy. And people end up checking that out, And we have another fantasy format called like Draft Royale, which is a sort of DFS thing, of course, without like the money, without the betting side of it, where you just like, have a certain budget, like, 200 coins, like each player costs like 30 coins, and then like, you have a fantasy roster. So the same thing we do like with influencers, like we create their own, let's say, Draft Royale league. And they just like, guys, that's my team for this week, let's say, what do you guys think? I didn't make the right choices for my team, if you guys want to check it out, like you want to try, you want to beat me, like some of like, depends on the influencer, like they have like they're known for their trash talk mentality. They're gonna try to tease their community and see like, okay, guys, that's my team. Now it's your turn. Can you beat me? I doubt it, but let's see if you can try. And people end up joining. So, and then we end up having draft rounds with 3,000-4,000 participants, like almost 5,000 I think one time. So that shows that people, they are like esports fans. They want to be challenged to do something, and they want like to be introduced to a product, a platform, in a very organic way, in a way that doesn't really look like an ad. So that's why I work very closely with anyone like we work with, like to try to create a campaign based on the content creator, based on the content creator's personality, the way they interact with their community. That's we adapt our campaigns based on that. And that's how we start promoting Draftbuff. So, certain like influencers, we go on a very like, even a little bit traditional way to promote, because, that's what works best with their community. Others, we go like full, like overboard, like very trash talky, very, interactive, because that's how it works best with their community. So that's why, reach out to influencers, like normally it's a process that takes some time, because I need to find some connection to the person, like we're going to be promoting Draftbuff with. I just, don't like to just promote Draftbuff, just for the sake of promoting. I like to promote with someone that's going to be truly interacted and engaged with the product. So it's my pleasure to have been working with the content creators that, all of them, they have been enjoying playing Draftbuff a lot. So I can see when they're promoting on stream, for example, like we work with a League of Legends coach called Yamato Kano. He's now like coach for Fnatic, and we worked with him for the last year's World Championship. And his promotion on his stream was hilarious. He was having so much fun. I could see him having so much fun playing Draftbuff, and it was a very successful promotion because his audience could clearly see he had so much fun on the platform, so they want to try it as well, and they end up trying and having fun as well. So that's what we want to do. We want to work with content creators, with influencers that we can, let's say, adapt our campaign based on what they are how they interact with the community, but also we want to work with people that are truly having fun with Draftbuff. And again, not for the sake of promoting, we want to work with people who are actually enjoying Draftbuff as well.
Absolutely. And so you mentioned something earlier. You said that you're in the future you're looking to work with developers and teams and leagues potentially. What is the monetization model for Draftbuff? What is how are you generating revenue?
Pretty good question. So obviously, because I have been picking right now everything for free to play. So we might be thinking what the hell these guys make money, right? But yeah, no, we have a bunch of cosmetic items on Draftbuff. We honestly, to be honest, we just released a bunch of them. We have lots of plans for this year, to offer more monetization options on Draftbuff. But one of them we have right now, we have in the form of avatars, where it's kind of your, let's say, your virtual mascot, you say, of your fantasy team, who is cheering for your team, let's say. So you can get some. We have a shop called Banana Store, and if you use our virtual currency called bananas, you can buy the bananas, and you use the bananas to buy those virtual mascots, the avatars, who are in turn going to start cheering for our team based on if your team's doing well, they're happy. If your team's doing bad, they're crying. So I feel fans are having a lot of fun with these mascots, and we have received a lot of feedback, and some of them have been very successful. So we're definitely gonna be releasing a lot of them this year. And we also have a full-on chat system on Draftbuff, and we have a system of unique emotes. So we are gonna start offering some emotes to buy, some trash talk emotes, a GG Easy emotes, or not even close, some kind of interactive stuff that people can just post it when chatting to their league opponents. I play against you this week and I beat in your ass, very hard. I just get all BM emotes as possible to tilt you there. So that's something again that people have been using a lot, having a lot of fun with. So yeah, we are one of the ways, of course, as I mentioned, is the cosmetic product approach, and with cosmetic microtransactions. The second one, which we also gonna start pursue this year. You can create your fantasy league right now. You can fully customize it. You can offer a very unique experience, but we also want to offer a premium experience for fantasy leagues. So users will be able to do even more customization, more unique features for fantasy leagues, but that will be a premium feature. So either the commissioner, the person who creates the league, we're gonna have to pay a fee, in form of bananas, or each member of the league pays a small amount of bananas each. But now some premium features, to make even a better, more unique experience for fantasy leagues, gonna be a premium one. And that's something that we noticed that is very popular in fantasy football as well, and we want to bring exactly the same format to our fantasy esports leagues on Draftbuff. So, and of course the third way will be advertisement. Again, we are discussing, talking to partners, and a platform that's used by over 100,000 people, and we have a stellar average sessions per week and time per session numbers. The average Draftbuff user, they use Draftbuff for over 40-50 minutes per week. So it's huge numbers, and of course we have advertisers that are very much keen to be showing their brands for people who use Draftbuff for almost an hour per week. So we also allow in talks with brands to advertisement, and at the same time they can have their branded fantasy contest, and so try to work with brands on that aspect as well. So yeah, that would be the three main ways we have right now that we can generate revenue from Draftbuff. Right now, of course, the focus is still user acquisition and grow our presence overall, between the English speaking scene and so on a global basis. But throughout this year, we want to start, of course, generate more revenue with the platform. And like with the community support has been amazing already. Like I couldn't thank the community or Draftbuff community enough for it, because without them, I sure we wouldn't be here right now. So I think only due to the community support we could keep things going. So really appreciate it. And we have a Discord server with our, let's say, most loyal users, let's say, the ones who follow, who play a lot of Draftbuff, and there are some great guys there that I got to know. So, and that's I think will be the biggest lesson I have for everything esports related. You can't create anything in esports without a community, So I'm very blessed. I think we are very blessed at Draftbuff for having such an awesome community that supports us entirely. So yeah, excited what we did, but even more excited for this year and the future of Draftbuff for sure.
Absolutely. So the main revenue driver is microtransactions. You talked about advertising. You talked also about some of the new larger transactions with premium leagues.
Yeah.
Are you looking into a subscription model or some form of monthly buy-in from users, or potentially like a premium league team or commission developer that would want to get involved to provide sort of like a subscription model of some sort, like a offered a certain amount of bananas or whatever is involved in that. Is that matter?
Actually, we test something similar last year already, in a first version called the Draft Pass. So many games have their battle pass. It started with Fortnite and other games, and pretty much most games have a battle pass version. We tested exactly the same thing for Draftbuff. So we had a battle pass version, 10 levels, and depending on your fantasy performance, you earn XP and you unlock new tiers. And every new tier gave you a reward, a cosmetic reward on Draftbuff. And of course, we have the free version and we have the premium version, which was a pay cost around $5. And you could unlock some unique avatars, unique stuff, so and some unique emotes as well, for the platform. So that was our first test into as I said, a more I still consider the kind of subscription, because it's a one-time investment, but still the investment for people who are very engaged on Draftbuff. Mm-hmm. So that was because at the end of the day we want to show everyone that we treat Draftbuff as a game, not as a platform, but as a game. We offer fantasy as a game, and that's why we also study other types of games to be released this season. So we want to expand. We want people eventually not only see Draftbuff as the fantasy esports platform, but also as a game platform. So now we have been studying other games we're going to be releasing in the future, and I think having the battle pass format is very important to give everyone the impression that we are a game as well. We had quests, you earn XP, just any other game out there. Just a little different in the format of fantasy esports, but our long-term view is that we're gonna have several games on the platform, and you're gonna have a battle pass format. You earn XP, you complete quests, and that sort of thing. All core modules, all core aspects that any MMO or any RPG, all the sort of games have out there. We're gonna bring something similar to Draftbuff. So we're probably not gonna have a subscription model, just monthly subscription model, but we want to make things around the battle pass, and that's going to be something very interesting for us to work on. Right now the battle pass is not active, although we are planning to bring that back on the second half of the year, as we tweak things over, as we potentially release a new game mode, beyond fantasy, which personally I have some great ideas. Everyone has some great concepts. I'm very excited to bring something very fun for everyone, so we can bring something beyond fantasy esports to the community. And start being known as a it started being known as a game platform. That's one big goal that we have as well.
Yeah, absolutely. When it comes to the developers and the leagues and such, what sort of information do they receive on the back end for maybe getting some insight into how they might strategically create content, and what are you looking for in the form of a brand partnership?
So let's say for any publisher, for us having like a official endorsement would be a huge deal, because like it or not, people are more likely to play, to use a platform that is officially endorsed by a league, for instance. And that's like where I've been talking to several like names over the last months. And that's like will be of course one thing, official endorsement, like to bring officially fantasy, to fans of certain games. But also like on the brand side, we also like have like access to literally like data patterns for 100,000 people, like how they play fantasy, like how they interact with the platform. And that's something like we know that publishers are very interested about, because it's something like we can like kind of potentially partnership on data exchange, and we can upgrade our platform. Like we can upgrade Draftbuff, and they can personalize, customize their experience even further to tailor it based on how people enjoy watching esports. So because Draftbuff users are mostly the hardcore esports fans, the ones who tend to watch a lot already. Although obviously we have been seeing a lot of casual users stepping in and starting to watch more esports because of it. But it's still a fairly percentage of user base is the people who actually are big fans. So it's something of course that anyone is very interested about. So if to see how to understand how big esports fans think, and how they consider how we can improve their experience. So that's something I have been also talking to, and see how we can kind of share our experience to see how we can improve our respective products or leagues and so on.
Absolutely. And so as we're wrapping up here, I want to ask you a question about the future of esports. This past year, we've esports has gone through sort of a reckoning in ways, but a renaissance in others. The growth of offline esports and LAN tournaments was hindered, but the growth online was it exponentially grew. And so, what do you think will be the next big thing for esports? What is it that's gonna really bring in that fan engagement, that direct connection, that reason for people to really feel invested in a particular team, title, or league? What is it that thing that's missing? And that is, yeah.
Yeah, I think first of all, 2020 proved that esports, kind of nothing stops esports. Not even a damn global pandemic that has been terrible across the entire world, which stopped actually, pretty much all traditional esports, for several months. But that didn't that actually stopped League of Legends for 1 week. That was the COVID impact on League of Legends, for example. It stopped everything for a single week. So one big lesson from 2020 is that esports is extremely resilient, and that we managed to survive very well a global pandemic. But the next big thing for esports, I think, is a very good question, in the sense that I don't think necessarily a big revolution is needed. I think we are already on a very good path. I think esports, as you see, is becoming more and more, let's say, part of the big media. We see esports, being treated, start to be treated as traditional sport, in the sense of coverage by traditional media, even even on television, that sort of things. Even if I don't think esports need television, need TV broadcast to succeed. It has its own culture, its own demographics. So I think as a fully online, let's say, streaming business is more than successful. I think again, nothing really is necessary. I think these days, if we see a 12, 13-year-old kid. I remember when I was 12 and 13, and that was some time ago already. I wanted to be a soccer player, and most of my friends as well want to be soccer players, or most things like this, or like doctor or lawyer, like this traditional stuff. If we go like to like a primary or middle school these days, and we ask like these kids like what they want to be when they grow up, we're gonna hire like esports athlete, esports player, streamer, YouTuber, those sort of things. So I think now like we already set up like a very like a solid basis for that within the next 10 to 15 years, this new generation who is like right now growing up, they're gonna be like growing up and gonna be like 80% of them, like 90% of them fully into esports and in gaming in general. So right now we have like a very growing scene, but I think most importantly, the kids who are gonna come up, in some years, they're gonna come up already very familiar with everything, and that's that's why like again, like I come from Brazil, like a huge like soccer fan crazy country, and I remember growing up as a huge soccer fan. All my friends are as well, and when we grow up, we stay like we keep this like I'm still like a huge soccer fan. And that's like the path we're gonna see with these kids in 10 to 15 years from now. And that way, esports is gonna be even bigger. And then our kids, their kids, and so on. So that's like how traditional esports evolved over the last century. So like people start falling, start growing, and then like kids start like falling, playing, taking a look, and then the kids grow, and then like their kids start falling because of their parents, and so on and so on. So it took like traditional sports over a century, like to go to this to the stage that they are today. And for esports, it's taking like 20 years, let's say, less maybe. So my view for the next 10 years is that we're gonna keep growing. I think for esports, what the industry needs like is stable growth rather than explosive growth, because I'm sometimes a little afraid that everything grows way too fast. And if it grows, some things grow faster than others. If you see like, in League of Legends, for instance, the salaries are growing exponentially, but that doesn't necessarily reflect on the income, on the average revenue that teams and leagues are making. And that's like a concern I have, that certain numbers are growing way too fast when compared to others. And that, the long term, the medium term even can be very dangerous for the ecosystem's health, the ecosystem's future. So, honestly, sometimes I think like stable growth is better than like just explosive growth. As long as this stable growth, is gradual year by year, I think, if that happens in the next 10 to 15 years, esports is going to be on a very cool spot. And I firmly believe it's going to be like on a very similar status than traditional sports today. So we're going to have like big media like covering esports, so let's say covering football, and then right after, okay, but here now the esports news, like it's gonna be something like that. And I'm very excited now to be a part of this amazing journey.
Absolutely. And I like to ask, do you have one piece of advice for someone just getting started and looking to make esports even a hobby, career, whatever it may be? What's that first piece of advice to get involved in esports?
Perfect question, because that comes, some memories back then. Like it wasn't easy, but so that's why the first big advice: never give up. Like it's hard. It's hard to make an esports. It's an industry that even nowadays I think is much harder than 5 years ago. Millions of people around the world, are fascinated about esports and want to start working. Millions of young people, like as I mentioned, people these days they dream about being esports players, YouTubers, and streamers. But at the end of the day, like not everyone's gonna make it. So now, if you're truly passionate about it, keep grinding, keep trying, never give up, and be creative. That's like my other big lesson. Try to find something new. Try to find something you feel you're comfortable doing, and just do it. Don't be afraid doing. So like I think 3 advices in one: never give up, be creative, and don't be afraid of trying. I think because even if like you try and fail 9 times, if you succeed in the 10th one, you're set up. You start your esports career. So yeah, for everyone like young folks out there who want to make like a esports in a career, keep grinding, never give up, be creative, and everyone, you guys can make it as well.
Very inspiring and very motivating. Right before I let you go, where can people find you? How can they get connected with you on the internet, in the real world, whatever you choose?
Well, I'm in Korea right now, and COVID kind of isolate the country, but I would definitely welcome after COVID, like everyone like come to Korea and calling me up so we can have some K barbecue. Food's amazing in Korea, so I definitely recommend. But yeah, like right now, like if you guys like anyone want to check me up on Twitter, like it's Twitter Gamecap, GAAMCAP. Like I'm very active there, although I don't post that much. I'm most like of a lurker on Twitter these days. Maybe because I just don't have time like to come with a nice creative Twitter ideas for myself. I prefer doing that on the Draftbuff account, and of course, like you can also follow Draftbuff on Twitter. Like we're creating some good content there, and hope you guys can check it out. And yeah, mainly on Twitter, and send me a DM there if you're interested in chatting more. And it would be a pleasure to help, pleasure to give some tips, and of course, a pleasure also to talk a little bit more about Draftbuff.
And how can users download the app?
Very good question as well. Draftbuff.com is the place to go. So just go to draftbuff.com, and we released last month our web version. So actually you can start playing fantasy on your browser as well, like initial version. And then you can have like there on draftbuff.com, you can also see links to download the Draftbuff app for iOS and Android.
Awesome. Once again, Guilherme, Arten-Meyer, also Gui, goes by Gui. You can check him out on LinkedIn, Twitter, all the things that he had mentioned before. Once again, this is the